It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.
Welcome to Dialogues with Dan, heard on Rockland World Radio every Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to check out the archives, which are accessible via the program page off the menu bar. Now, the host of Dialogues with Dan, Mr. Dan Windheim.
Thanks, Richard. Well, everyone, we have a live guest. That's right, a live guest. I'd like to introduce Holly Nieves. Hello, Holly.
Hi, Dan. Thank you for inviting me on your show.
You're welcome. Holly is a repeat guest. I'm speaking with Holly about her job and about, that's right, Holly Nieves is a funeral director. Yeah, Holly, maybe you could say hi to everyone and a little about what it's like being a funeral director.
Sure. My name is Holly, as Dan mentioned, as he introduced me. I work at Michael J. Higgins Funeral Home in New City, right here in Rockland County. And I'm a licensed funeral director for the state of New York, but I specifically work with advanced planning at Higgins Funeral Home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what was it like getting your license? Did you have to 4 years school or get certified, and what was the process?
Basically, if someone's interested in going into the funeral industry, the name of this school is American Academy McAllister Institute, and they're located Midtown in Manhattan. So if you have a bachelor's degree, it's 12 months. If not, it's 16 months. And once you complete your the program, you have to pass the national board exam, and then you continue on to do 1 year residency. After that, you have to take your state board exam. Once you complete that, then you're a licensed funeral director for New York State.
Well, could I say, wow, that's great. Yes. Are there many schools that offer this?
In our area, the main one is McAllister. However, there are schools, I know, upstate New York, Long Island, Philadelphia, Boston. They're just, you have to, I guess, Google it and see which one is closest to you. But American Academy McAllister Institute, they have a pretty good reputation with the number of graduates who pass the national board exam, and that's pretty much the focus of the schooling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you say it's limited? Only a certain amount of people get certified?
Anyone can apply for the school, but it's such a challenging time. I'll leave it at that.
Yes.
Because you are taking 21 credits per semester, and it's very stressful. It's very challenging. You cover a wide variety of topics, embalming, history, business, law, psychology. I could go on and on. So it's really not getting into this school, but how many people graduate from McAllister. It's very challenging, I would say.
Yes. Would you have an idea of what percentage
Ooh,
actually
that's a great
graduate?
question. That's a great question. I don't have that information, but I will say if you do not pass the first time, you're given the option of going back and repeating the courses.
Sure.
So.
Yes, maybe you could share some of the duties of a funeral director.
Sure.
Or jobs in that area.
Yes. So, like I said, the school really prepares you for the different areas in the field. You have some employees who focus primarily on transferring your loved one from the hospital or nursing home back to the funeral home. You have others who focus on embalming or other preparations for the deceased. You have people who primarily arrange. They meet with the family and they coordinate services with the crematory, the cemetery, the church. Synagogue, it's a lot of work that's involved. And then you have directors who, like what I do advanced planning. So people come and they meet with me before a death or a need occurs, and they plan either for themselves or a family member.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is done usually, I imagine, after a death, or people get that squared away.
Yes.
They do.
Yeah, and actually, not only do I meet with families, but I try to go out in the community and I give seminars and I speak to various organizations about the benefits of planning in advance.
Yes. And are there, do you offer, coupons? To get a good price? 2-for-1. Do you advertise in Penny Saver?
Yeah.
50% off, 2-for-1, or something
I like
like
that.
that.
Actually, we do afford certain courtesies to different organizations.
Sure.
For example, the veterans and their spouses, if they pre-arrange and they pre-fund, we were able to give them 10% as a courtesy off funeral home charges. So it helps.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you maybe speak about some of your experiences? Maybe a good one and maybe not so good.
Yeah. I would say, again, the reason I'm a funeral director is because I really enjoy what I do. So with that said, being that I've been in some tough situations where I've seen families scramble last minute or they're disagreeing with the disposition of their loved one, for example, burial versus cremation, it's more common than you would think. So one situation doesn't really stand out to me with a bad, being a tough situation, except for seeing a family that's not prepared. And that's why I do what I do, lecture to the community and even meet with families and explain this is something you should do ahead of time, or discuss it with your families. At least let them know what you would like, your final wishes are.
Sure. I'm doing a little joking about it, but it's not a funny issue. I'm sure you have to hold a certain professional manner and not insult people.
No.
You have to really...
there are the families that you can joke around with.
Yes.
But you just have to, and there are families who are genuinely upset. So every family is different.
Yes. And I guess that takes over experience.
Yes.
That you learn what you could do and what... no. Right? Holly, how do you think people handle death?
That's a great question.
Different ways. What are some ways?
Well, I think it definitely depends on your upbringing, your background, whether that's religious or you're different, you're of a different nationality compared to another family. I think that American society, we're definitely a death-denying society. Not too many people like to talk about it until they're faced with it, which inevitably comes to all of us. So It depends, but generally I think no one likes to discuss it. But I think that's beginning to change. I see that changing.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is?
I think because we're steering away from traditions. For example, cremation is on the rise, which is less traditional than burial. So I would say, especially people are becoming, they tend to discuss it more and more, whereas back in the day, you couldn't really discuss with your grandmother or grandfather about their funeral. That was a big no-no.
Yes.
But now I see, especially with the baby boomers, they're seeing what their parents had, and they want to deviate, they want to do things a little bit differently.
Do you think that people are, everyone's saying the afterlife, after, the life is temporary, but there are different lives.
Yeah.
And, life after life, there's many books being written about, that life death isn't the end, that there's something else. And people want to believe there's something else.
It gives them hope, sure.
Yes. You think that might be a reason?
Yeah, and I would say, that definitely impacts a funeral, because if people have the mindset that there is life after this life, they tend to they celebrate the person's life. They're going on to bigger and better things, and they're excited.
Right.
Whereas some funerals, families who have different beliefs, it may be more somber, and it really depends on the belief, sure.
Yes, and years ago, you wouldn't really see a woman as a funeral director.
No.
Especially a beautiful woman wearing a pink blouse, right?
Yes, you're right.
I mean,
the standards are changing a little bit. Actually, when you asked me about funeral school or McAllister, I graduated. I would say my class was about 75% women, female.
oh, really?
Women more and more going into the industry. I think because women are nurturing in a way, and they're sensitive and they're good listeners, not to stereotype. But it's funny because when I would meet with a family, some people would say, oh, well, where's the funeral director? And not thinking it was me. So times definitely have changed.
Yes. Maybe you could add, like what you do, that could be helpful. What sort of things do you offer a grieving family or what have you?
Sure. As far as counseling, Rockland County has a great list of resources for grief counseling, for spouses, surviving spouses, or children. So we try to, especially if we see a family having a hard time, we'll supply some resources. And I also, actually, I brought it with me.
Great.
It's called the Personal Planning Guide.
Oh.
So sometimes we have families who are interested. They just want to get a general idea. So we offer this as a resource. You can basically jot down some personal information, document your final wishes, and keep this with a copy of your will, for example. So we do offer this. We have a few books at the funeral home on grief, and but usually we try to encourage them to go to counseling.
Is there a website for that booklet?
Sure, it's www.dignitymemorial.com. And where I work, Higgins is part of Dignity Memorial.
So that's where this pamphlet
Yes.
comes from. Yeah, I see.
Memorial. And actually, if anyone would like a copy of the personal planning guide, they can always call or email me, and I would be happy to bring it to them or mail it to them.
Oh, yes, and
Yes.
maybe you could mention your email
Sure.
or the website.
Sure. So Higgins Funeral Home, their website is mjhigginsnewcity@gmail.com. I'm sorry, that's our email address. Our website is mjhigginsnewcity.com.
Yes.
And my personal email address is holly.nieves, NIEVES, at dignitymemorial.com.
Thanks. And is Dignity Memorial, how many homes do they have? Is it limited to Rockland County, or is it national, or
Great
what?
question. We have over 2,000 providers. That includes funeral homes, cemeteries, and that's in North America. So Canada is included. We also have Dignity Memorial outside the country. It's a little bit different, but we're part of the same network. So
Excellent.
yeah, so we offer different advantages, or I should say benefits. For example, not only do we offer the personal planning guide, we offer a bereavement travel program. So most of the airlines did away with certain discounted prices for
Yes.
bereavement. So we provide a phone number that you call at the time, and they offer discounted airfare, hotels, car rentals.
Really?
So it helps at the time.
Yes, and I know for military
Yes.
or dignitaries, is there like a plan, or how do you handle
For veterans.
burials for veterans or dignitaries, or say John Doe's? How is that handled?
That's a good question. Actually, Dignity Memorial has a homeless veterans program. So if any homeless veteran doesn't have family, or they can't their family can't afford services, we actually, as a courtesy, because of their service, we bury their remains free of charge as a courtesy.
Really?
And as far as veterans, we offer, so this is a personal planning guide, but we also offer what's called a veterans planning guide.
Yes.
The most important thing that a family or a veteran can do is to have a copy of his or her discharge papers, also known as the DD-214, because that document allows them to, or actually, they're eligible for certain benefits, such as an honor guard, American flag, the government markers. So with that form, the funeral director can apply for those benefits on behalf of the family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And well, you had said that there are many satellite
Yes.
homes. Yes, did you say how many?
About
Hundreds?
2,000.
2,000?
locations. Yes.
And do you work closely with different homes?
We do. Perfect example is because we live, New York most of the time, I don't want to say most of the time, a lot of seniors tend to travel down to Florida or the warmer weather states.
Yes.
And should something happen, we actually have providers down in Florida that we can coordinate the services for the person to be transferred back to New York State for the burial or cremation services.
Oh, excellent.
So we do work with them very closely.
So, after the funeral, is your job finished?
No.
You had mentioned
Yeah.
counseling. What other sort of things
Sure.
would be part of it?
Basically, after a funeral is over, there are some things that remain outstanding, such as, for example, if a family chooses to have burial, they often come back for a monument or a grave marker.
Yes.
Or they, sometimes they'll need additional services, more death certificates. So we try and follow up with them because a lot of times, right after the funeral ends, we see mostly with surviving spouses that they need some sort of support, or some things, again, may be left outstanding, and we're there to try and help them. And
Sure.
it's difficult.
Oh, it must
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you said that, like, families or your area, people tend to come to your home, that many, like, generations,
Yeah.
families tend to stay with the same place.
Yes. But sometimes not. Being that we live in Rockland County, we do see families who move from the city or out of state. So I always see a new face,
Yes.
Sometimes I do see families I've served previously. So you never know.
Yes.
Rockland is pretty diverse.
Exactly. Yes, I want to ask you about technology. Could you speak about how technology has influenced your job?
Sure. Nowadays, everything is online. So I have a lot of families who go online and they kind of get an idea what they would like. For example, if you log onto our website, there's a section where you can complete some of your final wishes, your advanced planning, so to speak. So that can help, and it also aids them in thinking of what they would like in terms of services. It provides certain options. So you can get a lot from the internet, and also, kind of educating people on what to do before death has arise. Just, getting a general idea. It helps logging onto the website, and even shopping around. Some people, like to get a general sense of
Yes.
how much things cost, and so
Yeah, and I think last time we spoke about it's easy to correspond with, like, a home in, say, Florida. If they have this certain casket that you need, you could, like, correspond with a different funeral home and maybe, oh, we don't have it, but in Florida they have this, and you could have it shipped.
Yeah, and speaking of caskets, if I don't have a particular photo of a casket to show a family, I can always go online, and we use Batesville Caskets, so I can log on to Batesville's website and show the family right then and there, the picture of the casket. So technology definitely is a help in this industry, I would say. Makes life
Yes.
easy.
Yes, I have a few more questions. Could we speak about the types of funerals?
Sure.
Well, are there many types, or what?
So, for example, if you were a family and you just came into my office, my first question is, have you given any thought as to what type of service your loved one may want? And if not, what would be your preference? So, cremation or burial, entombment, donation even.
Yes.
I would say we live in a pretty traditional area, so most people opt for burial, if not cremation. And with cremation, there's so many different options. You can have a service prior to the cremation, or following the cremation.
Yes.
Or no service at all, just what's called a direct cremation, and that entails taking your loved one back into our care, and then going to the crematory, and then with the cremation, a couple days later, we return the ashes to the family.
Yes. And as far as organ donations,
Yes.
is that all done prior to where you enter?
Yes. So if someone wants to donate certain organs, or if they want to donate their entire body, then we would refer the family to the medical college,
Yes.
Columbia Presbyterian, and they would take care of that. And then a couple years later, once the ashes are returned to the family, they may come back to the funeral home for a service.
Yes. And how about if there's no body? Say, it's a terrible example, but some situations there's no body.
Yeah, that's
like,
a good
how
question.
is that handled?
Generally, what we do is we provide a memorial service. So either at the funeral home or the church, and with some photos. That's traditionally what we do, and it's just like a funeral service. We speak about the life of the deceased, and
Yes.
people can come up and talk, and so it's very similar to if the body or the ashes are present.
Yes, but obviously there's no body
No.
in it. But they might put articles of clothing
Absolutely.
or whatever.
I have been to a service where the family decided to bury an empty casket, and that's just symbolic,
Yes.
And I thought that was nice because it does bring closure.
Right. And last time we spoke about lack of spaces. Cemeteries are
Yes.
running out of space. And have they thought up new ideas how to handle this?
Sure. In Rockland, a lot of the cemeteries have graves that are double depth, meaning you can bury one person above the other.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Never heard of that.
And in New York City, at St. Raymond's, that's a popular cemetery, they can actually bury triple depth. So they conserve space that way. But as far as new ideas, cemeteries do expand. But again, we're finding more and more cremation.
Yes.
And with ashes, you can do so much. You can scatter them. You can bury them.
Yes.
It's really what your preference is and what your religion, your background is.
Yes. So we had said that the view of death is changing. What do you think the future, like new movements or ideas toward death?
What we're seeing right now is not only cremations on the rise, but green burials. People starting to have visitation and wakes at the home. It's not as common, but we are starting to see that little by little.
Yeah, you had said green burials.
So no embalming.
How would that work?
Sure. There's no embalming, and with the caskets, they tend to be basically just wood, so there's no metal fragments, hardware. It's animal glue, almost like the traditional Jewish caskets. And then they're placed into a grave, and again, without embalming, it doesn't really do too much harm to the nearby
Yes.
area.
Interesting.
The environment, yeah. It is. It's very interesting.
It is. Ideas. They're plentiful,
Yes.
aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, you had said that your farm or home is all over.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess other countries or areas handle death maybe same, different.
Yeah, again, it depends on where in the world you are. And in school, we learned about different nationalities, different
Yes.
religions, how they approach death, and what they do to honor their loved one.
Yes. Yeah. Religions
Yeah,
handle very different.
absolutely.
Their whole idea of death differs for everyone.
Yes.
Yes. So in our last 2 minutes or so, maybe you could mention the name, the website, your email, Dignity.
It's dignitymemorial.com.
Yes.
And the funeral home website is mjhigginsnewcity.com. And my personal email is Holly with a Y .Nieves NIEVES @dignitymemorial.com.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, so I imagine you plan to stay here at Dignity.
Higgins, yes.
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 This is a new place for you.
Yes, I've been at Higgins for about 2 years.
Yes.
And I really enjoy working there. There's a great staff,
excellent.
and it's close to my home. I live in Nanuet, so it's right down the street.
Yes. Well, my producer will be coming in any minute now, and maybe I could go back to when you were a girl. I imagine. Well, you grew up in
Yeah.
this sort of family,
Mhm.
so this is your thing.
Yeah, I feel very comfortable discussing death, and I enjoy what I do.
I'm
do.
glad.
I find it's almost like a calling, not just a
Oh.
job.
Well, I guess a lot of people say it's a calling. That's very mysterious, you know? But it's a job, and
Yeah.
it's someone does it, and you're doing it.
Yes.
So thank you,
Thank
Holly
you, Dan.
Nieves.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thanks for joining me on Dialogues with Dan. Everyone, have a great week. Peace.
It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.
Like I said, I really